righty, guys. It is an exciting time to be in 512 Austin, Texas, as in 2023, football royalty comes to our humble little town. Arch Manning has committed to the University of Texas Longhorns. Is Texas truly back? Or can we at least beat Kansas this time around, right? Can we at least ask for just beating Kansas? I think that's a good place to start. Anyway, joining us today and joining us to give us the dead honest opinion, we have Justin Hall of Dead Honest Sports. He actually wrote a little article, Manning, a New Era. Arch Manning commits to UT. You can find that on deadhonestsports.blogspot.com. You excited for this one? What do you think it does for the Longhorns moving into the next season?
I think this is a great move. I think it's the biggest move since Steve Sarkisian has been hired by the University of Texas. You know, the most exciting move since Vince Young. You know, Quinn Ewers comes in. But I think since Vince Young, this is the biggest move at quarterback Texas has had.
Well, it's interesting because obviously I feel weird about like projecting what college players or high school players will end up being in the future. But by name recognition alone and obviously the program that Texas is, which is storied and they have a lot of money and they're always in the news for different reasons. I am always fascinated by how interesting Texas is as someone who doesn't live in Texas and doesn't really have the same Longhorns fandom that maybe the two of you do. I'm interested by just the way that we talk about the Texas Longhorns. And it's interesting because it's going to keep them in the news and it's going to be an interesting storyline. And obviously Arch Manning's the number one quarterback in his draft class right now. So regardless of whether he pans out as a college quarterback or has NFL prospects or whatever it is, as of right now, it's just really, really interesting that we get to put him at the University of Texas, which already has the giant fan base and lots of money and is always part of the conversation, regardless of how good or bad they are at football.
And Kyle, you and I have went back and forth the past couple of seasons about this one, about where the University of Texas is. Do I expect them to sign Arch Manning and suddenly be competing for national championships? No, that's not my expectation right now. My expectation is very low. I just want them to be relevant. I just want them to do baseline minimum. Last season, why I was ready to bury Steve Sarkisian was you couldn't even go 500. You couldn't even go 6-6. You go on that embarrassing losing streak in the middle of the season, one that is unprecedented by like 50 years after the come from behind victory by Oklahoma, after the come from behind victory by Oklahoma State. Getting a guy like Arch Manning just changes the dynamic of that program. And we're already starting to see that pay dividends for them in recruiting other guys like Derek Williams or getting Jonte Cook, 4 or 5-star prospects coming their way as well. Can we talk about kind of that Arch Manning effect, like what that does for them recruiting over the next couple of years as well?
I think it's going to have quite the domino effect, as you've already seen, with Jonte Cook as well as Derek Williams. You see those dominoes start to fall. Being in the Big 12, there shouldn't be a whole lot of competition for Texas outside of Oklahoma before the move to the SEC. So I think this move comes at a perfect time for them. It gives them a time to build a roster, a couple years to build a roster before they hit the SEC.
I want to kind of know, how is this going to work with Quinn Ewers? Because obviously I'm not like deep into the Texas Longhorns, but I was like, don't they already have a 5-star quarterback type player on the roster? Now you add another one. And obviously transfer portal changes the game now, but Ewers is now used his one-time transfer. And I guess I'm just interested by is this kind of like, he's going to transition into Arch Manning? Is it going to be a competition once they get to 2024? Like, how is that dynamic going to work between those guys?
My thoughts are, as crazy as this sounds to a lot of Texas fans, I'm sure, is Arch will redshirt his first year. This gives them time to not only build a roster around him for the coming years, but it also gives them time to, really see what Quinn Ewers can bring to them. It gives Arch time to learn the playbook, work with Steve Sarkisian, work with quarterback coach AJ Milwee. It gives him time to really establish himself in that offense and as a leader of the team. And that way, when they do put him in and they do start him, he hits the ground running and ready to go.
And when I think about that quarterback competition, I agree with Justin. I do think that Arch is ultimately going to have to sit a year behind Ewers. And I think Ewers, 2 years over there with Sark, to develop as well in his own right for his own NFL prospects. Arch, I think, can really use that development year. And I do think that it is telling him even making the decision to go to the University of Texas versus going to Georgia or versus going to Alabama. that he's going out there to kind of like establish his own legacy, kind of establish his own type of brand, because I know there's going to be a lot put on him. There's going to be certainly that savior complex put on Arch Manning as he goes to University of Texas after the embarrassing last decade that they've had all around. But he's trying to establish a name for himself outside of the Manning name. And otherwise he would have went just to Ole Miss, or otherwise he would have went to Tennessee, or he would have stayed in the SEC. But for him to go to the University of Texas, I think is a big move and a big step for him as an individual person. A lot's going to also be obviously put on Steve Sarkisian moving into the future as well, to be that right coach to develop and mentor him. And this definitely does add to the pedigree of Steve Sarkisian be able to recruit. Now, the next question is, can he actually put together a competent unit on the field? And obviously we talked about the old nickname of 7-win Sark going back to his time at Washington, and then his below average time at USC before, obviously things got messy out there. What do you think this does for Sark in building his equity with the program, Justin?
I think Sark's offense in particular is built in a way that you need talented guys, and not just decent, talented guys. You need guys that will take that offense to the next level. And he needs to build around Arch. He's got to make sure he's got wide receivers to throw to. He's got this spread offense that is fast and quick. He needs guys to fill those roles. And I think if he can make that happen, you're going to see this offense really catapult itself into the top of the conversation in a couple of years here. Especially if Arch, he's got a huge arm. He can make all the throws on the field. He's more mobile than his uncles were. And in an RPO spread offense, I think he can really excel. Steve Sarkisian can't stop here. He's got to continue to recruit hard. He's got to go after those big time talented players and the playmakers, whether it be a running back, tight end, or wide receiver. If he can do that, I can definitely see them taking that next step and being at the top of the list as far as offenses go in college football.
What do you think is a reasonable expectation for the program with Arch now in tow?
Well, again, it's difficult because I know he's obviously a 5-star quarterback and Ewers is a 5-star quarterback, but like there have been lots of 5-stars that end up getting drafted in the 3rd round or the 4th round of the draft. So like, I'm not going to say he's automatically going to be this amazing quarterback, because like he's 17, 16 years old right now. And, development will be an important part of that. And I said last year when we were going back and forth on the Texas thing, like every coach entering a new first season in the transfer portal NIL world, you get a free pass on the first year. Everyone can leave the program when the coach leaves. You got to spend years building up recruits. Justin talked about how they've brought in all these other 4- and 5-star recruits also. And of course, I know the name Bijan Robinson just in the back of my head from last year. And whoever that wide receiver was that had like 21 catches in the Kansas game.
Got to love Xavier Worthy.
Yeah. So, I know those guys on the periphery, but like as they transition into the SEC, like just not falling into purgatory is kind of the goal there. And like you guys were talking about him redshirting a year, which means he wouldn't play till 2024 in college football, in modern college football. That is like a lifetime from now, especially with the University of Texas that has near infinite resources to go hire another coach or hire another athletic director, or, in the changing landscape of college football, make a big money splash like they originally wanted to when they were trying to get Urban Meyer. So like, I don't know if Sark's the one who sees out having Arch Manning as his quarterback. I don't know if Arch stays there into 2024, but like reasonably for the next few years, it's get back to a competitive place, because basically college football coaches like NFL coaches get 3-year windows now. You get a 1-year pass for last year for Texas. This year, they just show like meaningful improvement, and it'll be cool for Texas fans. And I think cool for like reasonable expectations is like getting not 7th in the Big 12 is like reasonable expectation for next year and the year after that.
7th in the Big 12. Now we're also talking about the SEC. By the time Arch may get on the field, he might be in an SEC conference in that respect. I talked about the Manning name avoiding the SEC, but technically he might be ending up there regardless.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's exciting nonetheless. It's exciting to know in 2024, the Longhorns are going to go 13-0, 14-0, and we're just going to cruise through whatever conference or division we're in. Clearly, right? It's going to be exciting times around there. Might as well get the season tickets ready. But anyway, guys, we really appreciate Justin joining us. Justin, one more time, give all the plugs before you head out.
You can see my article on our Facebook page at Dead Honest Sports. We have the article up at deadhonestsports.blogspot.com. visit our website at deadhonestsports.com. We should be coming out here podcasts on Spotify as well here in the near future. Everything based on college football, NFL, MLB. It's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time to be a Texas Longhorn fan.
From Juju Talk Sports and Kyle Ledbetter, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We will see you next time.